Hello, my dear friend. I want to take you on a dark but meaningful journey. Take a moment to think, what would it feel like to wake up every morning knowing that much of your frustration, exhaustion, and even self-doubt stems not from any lack of intelligence, but from constantly having to deal with people who cannot think, reflect, or reason at your level? Imagine realizing that many of your conflicts arise not from malice, but from something far more dangerous: stupidity combined with confidence. Today, we will explore a perspective that is uncomfortable, provocative, and deeply liberating. I assure you that the final insight of this journey is the most important and powerful of all, capable of transforming the way you see people, society, and yourself. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the sharpest and most pessimistic philosophers of human nature, did not believe that stupidity was merely a lack of intelligence. In his view, stupidity was a force, a structural problem of the human condition, one that intelligent people must learn to recognize, navigate, and above all, this is not a reflection on arrogance or superiority, but on self-preservation, clarity, and wisdom in a world that too often rewards noise over depth and confidence over understanding. Schopenhauer observed something that remains painfully relevant today. Intelligent people suffer more, not because they are weak, but because they see more clearly. While a shallow mind rests comfortably in simple explanations, the thinking mind wrestles with complexity, perceiving contradictions, hypocrisies, and absurdities in places others pass by without a second glance. This awareness becomes a burden when intelligence is forced to coexist with stupidity that is loud, assertive, and socially validated. According to Schopenhauer, stupidity is not mere ignorance, for ignorance can be remedied through learning. Stupidity, however, is resistant to correction. It is the absence of, or unwillingness toward, critical thinking, coupled with an emotional attachment to one's own opinions. This is precisely why arguing with foolish people is so draining. They do not seek truth, they seek validation. When their beliefs are threatened, they respond not with reason, but with aggression, mockery, or moral outrage. Think about how often you have tried to explain something clear, logical, and well-supported, only to be met with hostility or ridicule. Have you noticed how rarely facts change minds when pride is involved? Schopenhauer warned that the greatest danger of stupidity lies in its self-confidence. A fool who doubts himself is largely harmless, but a fool who is convinced he is right becomes a source of chaos. Consider this: how many of your emotional wounds came not from malicious people, but from people who simply could not grasp the consequences of their own actions? How often have you lowered your standards, silenced your thoughts, and questioned your own intelligence just to keep the peace, just to bring yourself down to their level? Schopenhauer believed that society frequently empowers stupidity because stupidity is comforting. Simple ideas are easy to accept, and loud certainty is more appealing than quiet doubt. This creates an environment in which intelligent people are pressured to conform, to simplify themselves, and to stop asking uncomfortable questions. Over time, this leads to frustration, loneliness, and a profound sense of alienation. Yet Schopenhauer did not advocate arrogance or open contempt. On the contrary, he proposed a strategy rooted in realism. The intelligent person must cultivate discernment, must understand that not every battle is worth fighting, and that not every truth needs to be spoken. Wisdom lies not in proving others wrong, but in preserving one's inner peace and intellectual integrity. The real problem begins when intelligent people assume that reason alone can bridge every gap. Schopenhauer warned that this belief is not only naive but dangerous. Intelligence naturally seeks coherence, logic, and dialogue, and assumes that if an idea is expressed clearly enough, it will be understood and accepted. But this assumption collapses when confronted with stupidity, not because the explanation is flawed, but because the listener lacks the inner structure required to receive it. In Schopenhauer's view, stupidity is deeply connected to the will. People are not primarily rational beings. They are driven by desires, fears, and emotional investments. Reason most often serves these impulses rather than guiding them. A foolish person is not incapable of understanding facts. They are simply unwilling to allow facts to disturb their sense of certainty or self-importance. This is why logic feels threatening to them. It exposes limitations they refuse to acknowledge. Schopenhauer held that one of the greatest mistakes intelligent people make is overestimating the rational capacity of others. This overestimation breeds disappointment. Disappointment turns to bitterness, and bitterness slowly erodes compassion. The tragedy is not that stupidity exists, but that intelligence suffers by expecting too much of it. Another crucial insight from Schopenhauer is that stupidity thrives within groups. Individually, a foolish person may seem manageable, but when stupidity is socially reinforced, it becomes aggressive and self-righteous. In crowds, people borrow confidence from one another. Thought dissolves and emotion takes over. This is why mass movements, public outrage, and collective certainties so often lack nuance and depth. Think about how frequently popular opinions are repeated without reflection, how slogans replace arguments, and how complexity is dismissed as weakness. Schopenhauer saw this long before social media or modern mass culture. He understood that the majority is rarely wise and that truth is often solitary. This loneliness is one of the hidden burdens of intelligence. Yet there is a subtle danger here as well. When intelligent people are constantly confronted with stupidity, they may begin to grow contemptuous, seeing others not as different, but as inferior. Schopenhauer cautioned against this internal shift. Contempt poisons the mind of the one who carries it, binding your emotional state to the behavior of others and making you reactive rather than sovereign. So what is the alternative? If arguing fails, if explaining exhausts you, and if contempt corrupts you, what remains? Schopenhauer proposed something radical for his time: selective withdrawal. Not a retreat from humanity, but a conscious distancing from unnecessary conflict. The intelligent person must choose where to invest their attention, their energy, and their words. In this sense, silence is not weakness. It is strategy. It is the recognition that not every mind is reachable, and that your peace is worth more than proving a point. Schopenhauer believed that wisdom consists more often in saying less rather than more, in observing rather than correcting, in understanding rather than persuading. Ask yourself honestly, how many arguments did you win but lose your peace in the process? How many times did you speak the truth and feel emptier afterward? These experiences are not signs of failure. They are signals that intelligence must be guided by discernment, or it becomes self-destructive. At this point, Schopenhauer invites us to confront a difficult but liberating truth. The purpose of intelligence is not to fix the world, but to remain whole within it. Many intelligent people exhaust themselves trying to elevate conversations, relationships, and environments that are, at their core, resistant to depth. This effort is fueled by a hidden hope that being understood will bring relief. Yet Schopenhauer saw that this hope, when misplaced, becomes a source of suffering. Emotional distance is one of Schopenhauer's most misunderstood concepts. Many interpret it as being cold, indifferent, or detached from humanity. But Schopenhauer meant precisely the opposite. Emotional distance is not the absence of feeling. It is the discipline of feeling wisely. It is the ability to care without entangling your inner state with the limitations of others. The foolish people Schopenhauer described are governed more by impulse than reflection. They react rather than respond. When intelligent people invest emotionally in such reactions, they surrender control of their own peace. The mistake is not in engaging with others, but in allowing their irrationality to dictate your emotional rhythm. Think carefully about this. When someone misunderstands you, mocks nuance, or distorts your words, what truly hurts? Schopenhauer also emphasized solitude as a necessity for intelligent people, not constant isolation, but regular retreat. The intelligent mind requires silence in order to recalibrate. In solitude, you are no longer compelled to translate your thoughts into simplified forms, no longer obliged to set aside your intelligence in order to be socially acceptable. You are free to think fully. Schopenhauer's famous words echo here: "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." This does not mean rejecting society, but recognizing its limits. Society rewards conformity and punishes depth that disturbs comfort. An intelligent person who never withdraws risks becoming fragmented, constantly adapting to others until they have forgotten their own voice. Ask yourself, in what areas of your life would fewer explanations and stronger boundaries bring you peace? At the deepest layer of Schopenhauer's philosophy lies an insight that intelligent people sense intuitively but rarely articulate clearly: The true danger of stupidity is not that it surrounds you, but that if you are not vigilant, it can slowly shape you. It draws you into reaction, into constant explanation, into emotional entanglement. Over time, this erodes your clarity, your patience, and ultimately your joy. The final lesson is not about others at all. It is about protecting your inner world. Schopenhauer believed that inner peace is the highest form of intelligence. Not success, not recognition, not winning debates, but sovereignty over one's own mind. The person who cannot be provoked, who cannot be dragged into pointless conflict, who does not feel compelled to explain themselves to those unwilling to understand, that person possesses a rare power, invisible but transformative. Schopenhauer was nothing if not a realist. He did not romanticize humanity. He saw clearly that most people seek comfort, not truth, that they prefer beliefs that flatter them over ideas that demand self-examination, that they gravitate toward convictions that confirm their existing views rather than challenge them. Once you accept this, a profound transformation occurs. You stop trying to awaken everyone. You stop feeling responsible for other people's intellectual growth. You stop mistaking your clarity for a duty. And far from making you cruel, this acceptance allows compassion to arise naturally. When you understand that many people act from limitation rather than malice, resentment begins to loosen its grip. Yet compassion does not mean proximity. You can understand without engaging, and you can wish others well without participating in their chaos. The most powerful realization is this: stupidity cannot be defeated through confrontation, but it can be rendered harmless through non-participation. When you stop feeding it your attention, your emotion, and your energy, it loses its hold over you. Many conflicts persist only because intelligent people keep trying to resolve what was never meant to be resolved. Schopenhauer's philosophy teaches that the intelligent person must live selectively, selective in conversation, selective in relationships. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding deserves a clarification. This selectivity is not elitism. It is self-knowledge. Just as you cannot pour clean water into a broken vessel, you cannot pour clarity into a mind incapable of holding it. Doing so only depletes you. A deeper insight emerges here as well. The more intelligent you are, the greater your responsibility toward yourself, not toward convincing others, but toward preserving your own depth. A shallow environment, when one is exposed to it constantly and without protection, can flatten even the sharpest of minds. Schopenhauer believed that the great majority of suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from how deeply we entangle ourselves with things that should never have mattered. When you learn to detach from pointless disputes, your energy returns, your thinking sharpens, and your emotional life stabilizes. Notice how peace transforms your perception. You no longer see stupidity as an enemy. You see it as a condition, one that exists, one that persists, but one that no longer dictates your reactions. That shift is the true victory. Schopenhauer leaves us not with optimism, but with honesty. He does not promise a world free of foolishness. He offers something far more valuable, a way to remain whole within it, a way to preserve depth without becoming bitter, a way to be intelligent without becoming lonely. If there is one final truth to carry forward, it is this: your peace is more valuable than your need to be right. Your clarity is more precious than your need to be heard. And your inner world deserves protection, especially in a society that rarely understands its worth. And that is the quiet power Schopenhauer believed every intelligent person must learn to cultivate. See you in the next video.